What's up guys, QAJ3 Austin here, and welcome to my review of Jigsaw, or as some might call it, Saw 8. This review will contain spoilers, so I'll give anyone who hasn't seen the movie yet 5 seconds to leave. I've been a fan of the Saw franchise since about 2010, when what was supposed to be the final movie, Saw 3D, was released. Now at the time, I was about 12 or 13 years old, and that was a point when I would pretty much eat anything up regardless of its quality. I wasn't exactly a critic yet. So all of the Saw movies seemed incredible to me back then, but as I got older, I started to realize their flaws, though I do still enjoy them from time to time. This one isn't much different, so let's discuss why. The story takes place 10 years after John Kramer's death in Saw 3. Everybody thinks the killings are long over, and the world has moved on from the whole thing. Then suddenly, a new game begins, and a new mystery begins to unravel. A man named Edgar Munson leads police on a chase, ending on a rooftop, where he tells the police that if he doesn't activate the device in his hand, which will begin a new game, then he himself will die. He ends up being shot in the chest after pulling the trigger. The movie switches between the new game and the police trying to figure out who the copycat killer is. The game involves 5 people: Anna, Mitch, Ryan, Carly, and an unknown male. The police part of the plot involves detectives Halloran and Hunt, as well as forensic pathologists Logan and Eleanor. The game portion, I would say, is like a mix of Saws 2 and 5. 5 because it involves 5 people, with 1 being killed in each room, and 2 because it doesn't take place concurrently with the police portion. But at least that's obvious from the start, unlike Saw 2. The police portion, on the other hand, I found to be very confusing. Everybody accuses each other of being the one behind the game, and all of them have very good reasoning, but you know they can't all be right. The problem is that, combined with the game portions of the movie, there's not nearly enough time to process all the information you get before you're thrown into something else. If they had slowed down the pacing and given more time to digest the details, I think this movie would have been more enjoyable. Also, the traps were uber predictable. You just knew something would happen like 30 seconds before it actually did. And when Ryan's leg got caught in the wire and Anna and Mitch were trapped in the grain silo, none of that needed to happen. It was all thanks to Ryan's stupidity not following the rules. Watching it, I said to myself, that's like 15 minutes of footage that could have been avoided. Of course, it would have made for a shorter movie, but when it's that obvious that the writers are trying to stretch out the time, you know there's a problem. And the fact that John Kramer outright mentions it later doesn't excuse it either. And the final twist, that Logan was behind it all, and that the game actually happened 10 years ago, even before the events of the first movie. All I have to say is, if he was John Kramer's first ever apprentice, why is he never seen or mentioned up to this point in the series? That right there stretches the believability for me. But at least the time jump explains why John Kramer was suddenly there, alive, and with his throat intact. I have to say, seeing him was the biggest shocker this movie had to offer. I thought we might get a brief flashback interspersed here or there like the previous movies, but nothing as prolonged as what we got. Props to the writers on that one. But overall, as far as Saw movies go, it was pretty typical. A game is played while the police try to figure it all out. This one, though, had a more modern feel to it than the previous ones. I don't know, maybe it has something to do with the laser cutters. So now let's move on to the acting. Ryan. This dude was a trip. Clearly the comic relief character, but also sort of tragic. He's a coward who doesn't want to help anybody else when they need it, but begs for them to help him when he needs it. Played by Paul Braunstein, I don't know whether to call his performance good or bad. I mean, it was pretty bad in an over-the-top kind of way, but I think that's what he was going for. After all, as I said, he was clearly the comic relief. But he was the only real highlight in my opinion. Everybody else was either average or slightly below average, except Tobin Bell, who's always incredible as John Kramer. Nothing was terrible, but there were a couple poor line deliveries here and there. There is one scene I want to mention though. Near the beginning, when Carly needs to choose one of 3 syringes to inject herself with, and everybody starts being hung, and Ryan and Carly struggle mid-air over the syringes, I couldn't help but laugh. I don't know if it was their performances, but just the way the whole scene played out was like, oh my god, what the hell is this? Anyway, now it's time to talk about the special effects. The special effects were probably the best a Saw movie has ever had, at least since the first. Most of the previous ones looked either direct to DVD or made for TV, something like that. For this one, however, they clearly upgraded the cameras and it actually looks like a mainstream movie in 2017. The trap designs are more or less on par with all the previous movies, with maybe a few designed to look better in 3D, similar to Saw 3D. I like the emphasis on forcing the players to outright confess their sins, and the laser scene at the end was pretty cool, but I expected more original stuff than that, considering the 7-year wait. One thing I did notice is that there were no scenes where the camera rotated really fast and frantically like there were in the other movies. That alone definitely set this movie apart from the rest for me. I remember that being one of the series' signature aspects, and not seeing any of it here was disappointing, even if it did make the movie feel more realistic. Also, is it just me, or were there some scenes where the dialogue didn't match up with the characters' lips? I'm not sure if it was just my copy or not, but I swear I noticed it a few times. If I'm right, that's just really lazy on the editor's part. And if I'm wrong, then I'm sorry. I confess my sin. And I sort of addressed this before, but the movie is filled with quick, abrupt cuts that throw the whole tone of the movie off. And I'm not talking about one scene being quick and abrupt, I'm talking about the transitions between scenes. Like just when it's settling into the procedural aspect, we suddenly cut to, "Help me! Oh God!" Or vice versa. But possibly the most glaring mistake happened about 2/3 through when they show a flashback of Ryan in high school falling out of the car which ends up killing his friends. Okay, so Ryan fell out of the car to his right, meaning the car was then on his left. But then like 2 seconds later when the car crashes, it's on Ryan's right side. How the hell did it get over there? I picked up on that mistake immediately, and there's really no excuse for it. If you can think of one, however, let me know in the comments. So in conclusion, I'm going to give Jigsaw a 6 out of 10. It's not the best movie in the series, but it's certainly not the worst either. It probably has the most mystery to it since the first movie, even though it got really confusing because of the fast pacing. I might review all the other Saw movies individually one day, but for now, we'll just have to wait for Saw 9, or Jigsaw 2, whatever they call it. They have confirmed that they're working on it, so that's cool. One more thing before I go. I might be looking into it too much, but I wonder if Detective Halloran is a reference to The Shining. There's a character named Dick Halloran in that, and since Dick is sometimes short for detective, I wonder if they named him Detective Halloran intentionally. I'm probably wrong, but I think there's a chance that I'm right. Anyway, that's it for my review of Jigsaw. Thanks for watching, please like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you in my next video. Until then, peace out.